Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Press for Truth TV. Thanks for joining me once again on this Monday, July the 2nd, 2012. I hope everyone had a great weekend, and I hope you all enjoyed the Canada Day festivities yesterday. I went down to Dundas Square, as I have for the last 4 years in a row now. And for those of you who have been following our work for quite some time would know that every Canada Day, for the last 4 years, we have been doing a Canada Day DVD giveaway where we would burn copies of our films, Into the Fire, The Nation's Deathbed, and United We Fall, and we'd go out and hand them out to people on the streets for free, just to raise awareness about issues that pertain to Canadians. And some of you may recall the first time we did that 4 years ago. To our surprise, there were around, I believe it was 13 other cities who ended up joining us all across the country and burning copies of those films and handing them out on that day. And then the following year, after the success of the first one, we realized, hey, why don't we make this an annual thing? So it was the next year that I think there was 17 cities all across Canada that took part in the DVD giveaway. So it's been great, really. Now, with this particular Canada Day, I've been so busy between just focusing on my daily videos and working on some new video reports and working on the Bilderberg documentary and all these things that I didn't even realize it was Canada Day weekend until the weekend was already here, and Canada Day just completely just crept up on me and caught me by surprise. So I didn't get a chance to burn any copies of the films. But luckily, a few other people still did that, and so the tradition continues. And at least I still got a chance to get down to Dundas Square on Canada Day to see some people I haven't seen in a while. So that was good. And one of the reasons why we wanted to start doing this is because we thought Canada Day was an appropriate time to try to raise awareness about issues that matter to Canadians. And we do that through our films, Into the Fire, which of course is about the G20 summit that happened here in Toronto. And then the other films we'd often hand out are The Nation's Deathbed and United We Fall, which deal with this North American Union agenda. And that is something that we have been talking about for quite some time. And that's a little bit about what I wanted to talk about today a little bit, is the advancements towards this NAU agenda. And for those of you who have been paying attention to my work for years, would know that I've been tracking this NAU agenda for over 7 years now. And even way back then, I've always said that the only way that this thing is ever going to come about is if they have to standardize and harmonize and kind of level the playing field across the board in hundreds of different areas. But some of you may remember, I've always said there are two major areas that need to be leveled across the playing field, if you will. And that is that the Americans would have to adopt some sort of a universal healthcare system that is similar to what we have here in Canada. And another thing that would need to happen is that Canada would have to have, by and large, a two-part political system, two-party system similar to the Republican versus Democrat false left-right paradigm that we see down in the United States. So one of those two major steps towards this union is pretty much underway now under the recently announced Obamacare. And this is a huge topic and a debate going on in the United States right now. There's a lot of people on the fence of this issue. Of course, a lot of the Americans who have already had health care are upset about this and all this socialist undertones that they are perceiving with this new Obamacare. And then there's the people who have been making less than $40,000 a year who now will be able to afford their hospital bills should something bad happen. And they, of course, are completely in favor of this because it benefits them quite a great deal. But for those of us here in Canada who have been tracking the NAU agenda, we can see that this is a major, major step towards the end game that is the NAU. As I said, a lot of things have to be standardized, a lot of things have to be leveled across the playing field, and two-part political system is one of the huge steps that need to happen here in Canada. And of course, the other one is a universal healthcare system in the States has to be on track with what we have here in Canada. And it looks like that's the route we're going now with the recently announced Obamacare. And as far as the other major change that has to happen, I've been thinking lately, there's a good chance that this whole Quebec separatist issue could be the linchpin, could be the trigger to bring about an eventual two-party system to get us more in line with how the Americans are running things. And so, this comes as not too much of a surprise to me. As I said, I've been tracking the NAU agenda for quite some time now, and that's what I see in the announcement of this Obamacare universal health care program, is that it's getting them online with the Canadian system here for an eventual bilateral union between Canada and the U.S., which will eventually become a trilateral union involving Mexico eventually. But it seems to be that the route that they're taking now is to get Canada and the U.S. In line with each other first, and then eventually invite Mexico into the mix. So it's important that we continue to raise awareness about this. That's why we want to keep up with the Canada Day festivities and handing out DVDs to spread information about this particular agenda. But that brings me to another point that is now getting harder and harder to do in this country, as the government is starting to put gag orders on government employees who want to speak out against the federal government. For example, here's an article that just came out from CBC. Parks Canada staff banned from criticizing the feds. Parks Canada employees across the country have received letters warning they're not allowed to criticize the agency of the federal government. The directives come as the agency cuts hundreds of jobs or curtails work hours. I am aware that during this time of significant transition, the concept of loyalty can have a very particular meaning. However, as employees of the public sector, our duty is to support the elected government, employees were told. Workers are not supposed to speak out against the cuts, whether at meetings, forums, or through social media. Only designated people are allowed to deal with journalists. Anyone who has an issue is supposed to go through internal processes like filing a grievance or talking with a supervisor, human resources manager, or the Parks Canada Ombudsman. A copy of the letter, obtained by CBC News, is signed by Chip Bird, Field Unit Superintendent in Cape Breton, but thousands of federal workers got a similar warning. Eddie Kennedy, National Executive Vice President of the Public Service Alliance of Canada, said that the letter went out to 4,800 agency employees around Canada 3 weeks ago. If you're in a coffee shop and you're criticizing the Harper government and there's someone sitting beside you and they know you work for a government department, technically you're in violation of the Code of Ethics, he told the CBC News on Thursday. The letter says the duty of loyalty to Parks Canada is spelled out in the Code of Ethics. The duty of loyalty includes the duty to refrain from public criticism of the government of Canada when speaking as an employee of the agency. Breaching the duty of loyalty may lead to disciplinary action. Kennedy said he's not aware of any employee being disciplined for speaking out, but this amounts to a gag order. And so the article goes on to say here, one worker agreed to speak to CBC News as long as he wasn't identified. I only have weeks until retirement, the employee said. It's the Harper government. What can you say? It's a gag order. It has to be challenged. If there is a complaint against an employee, the union plans to fight it. Kennedy said they will turn to the Canadian Human Rights Commission if necessary. Kennedy said other government departments are including similar language in their code of ethics. It means the government's line is the only one getting out. If the government's doing cuts, the only message you're getting on that are their prepared media lines on the cuts. Most government departments aren't going to come out and say, our cuts are going to reduce the services to Canadians, or they're going to close this office, or you're going to have a harder time qualifying for unemployment insurance. The letter says there are exceptional circumstances to this rule, though it doesn't give specifics. To determine whether public criticism is acceptable, the duty of loyalty must be balanced against other interests, such as freedom of expression. Union representatives who are designated spokesmen, like Kennedy, enjoy a much greater scope of freedom of expression. So this is unbelievable. This is something reminiscent of something that Stalin or Hitler or something like that would do in their country, effectively banning people from speaking out against the government. And I suppose that's all part and parcel when you're trying to sell out the sovereignty of the nation. There's going to be an uprising. There's going to be a number of people speaking out against that. And so we're starting to see the Canadian government placing these gag orders on government workers to try to stop people from speaking out against their cuts and their agendas that are being pushed through by the majority government under Stephen Harper. And so anyways, guys, I'll put a link to that article in the description so you can check it out for yourself. And I'll also put a link to last year's Canada Day DVD giveaway that we organized down at Dundas Square, just so you can see how it's gone over the last few years. And hopefully next year we can make the annual Press for Truth DVD giveaway a huge one, because it's, as I said, a great opportunity to raise awareness amongst your fellow Canadians to issues that matter to them. So anyways, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in once again, and I will see you all right back here tomorrow. Take care.